see my screen. Where's my screen? Do you see my screen? No. Which screen? My Facebook or my learning portal? Which one is that? Okay, cool. So here's the code from this morning. Okay, so as you can see here, we have this function to hash a password, right? Okay, so can anyone tell me when do we use function? Will we use it again anywhere else? Kind of like will we reuse it? If yes, then when? In which case? So this function here. So I would say we will reuse this one, this function, and we will reuse this when we need to update the password, right? So for example, a user wants to change the password, we also need to call the function again. And it's okay. It's okay to run the function again. Yeah, that's fine. Or if you want to use a middleware, or if you want to use a MongoDB middleware, right? You can do something like this. So for example, just introduce you to how to use a middleware, a Mongoose middleware. Okay, in your user model, you can say schema.methods. Is it? No, not really. So schema.method dot breathe, sorry, but breathe and breathe safe, which is a nascent function. Next, sorry, next. There's no request in this one. Next. Okay. So what is this? So this is breathe middleware. It means like before we save data to database, this function will be called, right? So pre here we also have post. So we have pre and post shelf. What it does is before Mongoose save the this object to the database, before Mongoose save this to the database, it will execute this function, right? So I will show you. I'm gonna say console log, hey, I'm being called, and then you connect. Next is to skip to like we already know middleware, right? Do we? Did we learn middleware? Yes or no? Question. Did we learn middleware? I'm not sure. Usually, last Friday, if I'm teaching that class, I will introduce middleware. But yeah, so I think we already learned middleware. Right? So middleware is kind of like a, so how do I say, you know, sorry, slices 7.4. It's loading. Take a what? Sorry, for some reason it doesn't work here. Let me show you on this one. Oh, there we go. Just slow. Okay. So middleware is kind of like a chain, right? It's a chain, and so here's a very example picture for the middleware. Where is it? Where's my picture? Okay, here we go. All right. So this is kind of like the whole process. A middleware means like a node. How do you say? How do you call the ring inside a chain? So it's kind of like a ring, right? So you will move from here, from the start to the end. So you're gonna pass the bucket here, right? You're gonna pass the bucket here. So the first guy will pass to the next guy, and we keep passing the bucket until we reach the end of the chain. So in order to move on to the next ring, we're gonna call next, right? Next here. So next means simply move on to the next chain. If you have something inside next, it means you're gonna where's the picture? You're gonna break the whole middleware, the whole chain, and then you skip to the last middleware in the chain. So meaning if you have some argument inside the next function, it means you throw an error and that will be caught by the last guy. But let's not worry about that now for now. So just keep in mind that you connect to move on to the next ring in the chain. And the bucket here is very important. So the guy before, the guy in front, if he decided to pour on water, right, use all water here. The next guy in the chain will not have the water at all because it's gone, it's all gone, it's all poured. So by using next, you can actually using a middleware like this, the concept of middleware like this, you can add more water into the bucket or remove some water. Okay? So that's the whole concept. So here is the same. So before we save the data into the database, we do something and then we connect. So let's have one more. So I'm gonna call this one post. And for post, you don't have next. And hey, I'm being called from post save. So I'm being called from reset. Okay, and you don't have next here. All right, so I'm gonna execute this. I'm gonna call this endpoint. So here I'm gonna create another account 7. Click send and check your terminal. Now you see that I have two console, two rings here. The first one is called from middleware reset, right? The second one will be process. So now we can do something here before we actually save to the database. For example, we can hash a password and then save that hash to database. Okay. And with this middleware, we can reuse logic again and again and again. We don't have to rewrite these functions. So right now, this function only have like one line. So you may think that it's not necessary to create a middleware. That's fine. That's correct. That's okay. There's only kind of like two cases that you're gonna need this function. The first one is to create a new user. The second one is to how do you say to update the password if the user want to update the password, to change the password. Right? So there's only two cases that we're gonna use this one. But to learn, in order to learn how to use a Mongoose middleware, let's try to do that now. Instead of putting the logic here, we can, I'm going to copy this the whole thing here. We can go to our model, do the exact same thing. So here, I create a hash password by hashing the raw password, but here we don't have any password, right? So we don't have the raw password yet. So I'm going to comment out this one, but actually we have. So I'm going to change this one to password will be whatever the user input. Right? I'm going to comment out that line. So here I try to create a user object using the raw password. Okay, but when we call this method, it's actually there are two steps inside this method. There's two steps actually. First step, behind the scene, right? Behind the scenes, it will first it will create a mongoose object. Okay, and then second, it will save that object to the corresponding how do you say it? Corresponding model or collection. Okay. So basically, it creates an object first, and then it save the object to the collection or the model. So before it's saved, we can retrieve the data out. For example, I'm gonna retrieve it. So you have console, you have const user equal to this, right? This here. So this here refer to the document, very similar to this one. Okay. So this here refer to the document, which is this this object. This object. And so inside of this we have password. So we also have this dot password, right? But now you can just user password because I assign this to user. So now I have user password. And then we also need the sound. We need bytecode, we need sound. So I'm gonna go into my router and copy these two lines. I'm gonna cut it, put it in here, right? And sorry, keep switching. Okay, so here I have bytecode, I have sound. I can create a hash password, and then user dot password will be equal to hash password. I assign this one back to the password inside user again, and then I connect. So by doing this, I actually change the value of some changing user dot password from raw password to hash password. Okay, or you can use just one line of code. User the password equal to a white bytecode hash user the password itself. That's fine. And then we connect. So let's try this out. See what happens. Okay. I'm going to test with Postman. I'm going to create file number 8. Click send. Okay. Successfully create a new account for file. And to check the password, just go to your database, refresh, click on what was it? Catalina book user. So this is the one we just created the account, right? Yeah. Okay. And the passwords is also hash. The raw password is also hash, right? So that's how we use a mongoose middleware. To be exact, it's called free hook, reset hook. Okay, it's reset hook. Right. So it's in MongoDB. It's called reset hook, right? Do you have? Is it clear? So I will show you here. So in here, I remove the logic to hash the password, and I move it into I make it into a middleware, right? And then this middleware will do the same exact same thing. It will change the value of user dot password from raw to a hash, and then it will call next. Next mean like move on to the next step, which is saving the data into the database, saving this object, this user to the database. Okay, and yeah. So on inside our controller, we don't need this logic at all. We don't need to specify this logic. We let the model handle that. It's not inside the controller. So it makes the controller easier to read. Right. Do you guys have any question about this? I make it like I purposely make it into multiple small steps so that you can understand. So I'm going to copy the code once again. Here. And this one is the model. Right. You can make it better by doing this noise. User this dot so this dot password equal to this dot password, and then just one line code. Right. Are you okay with that? Yeah. So this concept we're gonna use it a lot in the future, right? The reason is we don't want to make our controller too long. For example, if you have more logic to do between the steps here, is that we don't want to have more logic, have all the logic inside our controller here. Inside our controller here. That's why we separate the task into the appropriate, how do you say, appropriate model. For example, right now our model will handle the task to hash the password before saving it to the database. Okay. The step we did here, just hashing the password, and then return the new hash to before we save it. And we can do it inside the model. We don't need to do it in the controller. We can do it in the model by using this middleware, right? Okay. Just and middleware is a pre-save hook, or you can call it a pre-save middleware. And this is a middleware of Mongoose, a Mongoose middleware, pre-middleware. Mongoose pre-middleware means before, so the word save here, as you can see, the word save here actually is this method. Remember this method, user save, right? So save here is this save before you save the data to the database, right? Before you save data to the database, we will do this function. We will run this function, and this function will have this, and this here refer to the document, and the document is whatever we trying to create here. So the document here means the user document, right? The user document, and inside user we have name, password, email, right? Also ID. You also have ID there. So I'm going to construct that for you. Construct this. Here we go. I'm going to construct this, and I'm going to create the the number 9 cache. Okay. So here the construct. And so these information are created by Mongoose automatically. So you have ID, you have name. Name is from the input, from the user input. You have the raw password, which from the user input as well. You also email. So these three information are actually from the user input. This is before we change the change into a hash, right? Before, after. So this, if you construct this here, you see this string, this password change to a hash string, and that's pretty much it. And then when you change it, after you've done changing it, you just call next. So after next, if you don't have any other middleware, any other preset middleware, um, it will actually, if there's no more say middleware, preset middleware, so it will save data to this to database. Okay, and so that's how a Mongoose middleware works. Just copy and paste, copy from cut from this file, cut from here, and move it here. So that's all how we use pre-middleware. We will talk about this more tomorrow. For now, we use a very simple middleware. Okay. So do you have any question about this? Okay. Remember, guys, for pre-save, we always have next, and we should always call next here. If you don't connect, the application will be like blocked here. It will stay here forever. After like 1 minute, it will throw an error, come out error. Remember to call next when at the end of the function. If not, app will be stuck here. Okay. And then request timeout response error. So on the front end, you will see the request timeout error response. Yes. Do you have any question? Okay. Which code? This one? This one? Okay. I think I did send it on Discord. Let me remove this one. Okay, updated. Updated it. Wait. Oh, that is wrong. Okay, sorry. All right, done. Okay. Still, you have any question about this? So that we can move on to oh wait, it's not done. so this this middleware is not finished. Sorry. It does shop, but there's a potential bug here. There's a potential bug. So this middleware will always be called when we always call middleware function when we use dot save, right? So whenever we use dot save here, whenever we save the data, the document to the database, this function is called, and so when it's called, it will try to hash the password, always hash a password. And even though the user doesn't change password, this middleware will also change the password, update the string. So it's gonna be the potential bug will be hash the password again, even we don't provide new password. Right? So even if we don't provide a new password, it will try to hash the current password or the previous password, and that's gonna lead you to the error that you cannot log in again. So your password is always changing every time you update the document. So there's a way to prevent that. You can do something like this. If this dot is modified, I just forgot it. There's written in the lab here. My memory is so bad. Okay, here you have a condition to check. Where is it? Where is it? Sorry, hang on. Okay, this is modified here to check if this is modified. Okay, modify is a function, and here you can provide any field that you want to check. So right now I want to check the password field. Right. If this password field is not modified, meaning it's not changed, we can just return next. We don't execute this function. Okay, you can do another way. So if it does, then you can do this, move this up. Better. So if we change something in the password, we change the value of the password. For example, you create a new password, or you update the password. Then we will hash the password, the raw password, into a hash string, and then connect. Else, we just don't execute this code. Right. So let's go with without how do you say? Yeah, just follow this one. Okay. I wanted to test to show you guys the error, but right now we don't have the login function yet, so we cannot test it yet. We will test it later. So keep in mind that you can use this dot is modified, and whatever inside here will be the field that you want to check. So here I want to check if I change something in the password. If yes, I will pass it. If the password is not changed, I just ignore that and I call it next here. Okay. Questions? So this check here is just to check. Okay. Right. How do I? Sorry. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna copy and paste again this one to this file. Right. So we have this if else if logic here to checking if we change the password or not. Right. I have this password. Now, if I have another endpoint to change password, see what happened here. So go to user route. I'm gonna have another endpoint to update the password. So router dot put, for example, and I want to put the users, and here's gonna be our user ID, right? An async function, request response, next. It's just an example endpoint. It's not complete. So here I'm gonna call try try catch, right? And copy the catch block. Cons. So for example, if I want to change the name and the password, equal request dot body is whatever. We don't care about that. Okay. So here, if you want to update a document, you have two options. You can use, you can find a document and then you save, change some data and then save it. Or you can update it on the go using file by ID interface. So let's try with file and then update and then save. So I'm going to say on user equal to array is user file by, it's not by file by ID. So for now, let's just file by ID. And then I'm going to put in the user ID here. Comma, and then if user, if not user, I'm going to say throw new error. You don't have to type this one, just watch me do it. User file. If we found the user, we can update the user like this. Yet remember, there are two ways to update about the user. You can run a for loop for let key in request body. Sorry, yeah, in name password. Can you do that? No, you cannot do that. For example, just request body. Then for you want to update user key equal to request body key. Then finally, I'm gonna await user the same. Then return the user. Right. Let's test it. So what the point of this one though? So we move it. Okay, I'm gonna try and test it endpoint. You don't have to copy my code. So testing. Okay, I'm gonna create a new endpoint, a new request, update user. Okay, for update user, the endpoint will be URL users and the user ID, right? So the param here, I want to update this guy, file9 here. I want to change it to Juan, for example. So I paste ID here, and for the body, I'm gonna change to name will be Juan. Right, password. Let's ignore the password. Okay, let's ignore the password. Okay, that's no password. Okay, I'm not gonna change to Juan. Sorry, it's a pull request. Cannot push user, really? Router pull, oh, no more this, sorry. All right, again, user simplify. This is request dot param, sorry, of user. Okay, I sent, so I successfully changed the document name to Juan. As you can see here, I refresh. I see Juan as the account Juan, right? All right, I will show you the bug earlier that I talked about earlier. So without this check, right? Without this check, without that check. So as you can see, here's the password. Here's the current password. I'm going to copy that current password somewhere else. I'm going to put it here. Okay. All right. So now I want to change the product name to theme, for example, and I click send. Okay, successfully update the name as well, but the password here is changed, right? As you can see here, it's changed. You see two different user string, right? So this is the correct password, and this is actually the hash of this one. We take this one to and hash again and make it into another hash string here. So this password is incorrect, and that's why we have this logic check to make sure that we change the password, and then we call it. Right. So that's the first line 43 and 45, right? Okay, the whole function here, the whole handler here, just to show you the error. All right. Let me remove this. The whole function here just to show you the error. Let me think. Okay. Okay. After thinking, do you have any questions? Again. So the whole function here just to is I wrote just to explain the error. One mark. All right. So you can ignore this. You can ignore this. Just know that I have this logic here to check whether checking where the password field is dated is modified. Okay. If it's not modified, we just simply don't do anything by calling next, not doing anything. If it's modified, then we hash it. Right? Okay. So then login. Yeah. Oh my God, there's still a lot more to do. Okay, login. Where am I? Where am I? Okay, let's do login. You can create another router for login, or you can just simply do it here. Router.get host, and I want to log in, right? So it's going to be user starts login. It's going to be host user starts login. Same thing, async function. Request, respond, next. Right. And to log in, we need what? What do we need for login? So which data we need to log in a user? No. Username and password, yes. In this case, we're going to use email, not username, okay? Because email is unique, username is not unique. I'm going to paste the same thing. So we need email, password. Right. So I'm going to do it step by step, and then we refactor it later. So first thing, first step, use email to find the user document, right? The user that had the email, and then compare the raw password with the user password. Okay. So next, three. If they match, the two password match, we then issue if match, issue tokens JWT. Okay, three steps. And then finally we respond. And comma. So and finally we respond with the data object, the user object, and the token. So right now I just put it as a string, right? So here we go. Can anyone help me to find a user document using the email? You can write in the group chat. Let me find a user using email. Anyone? Quickly. That's syntax for what is that? So I'm gonna write here. So it's gonna be something like this, right? Await user dot by what? By one. We want to find only one user, right? And by one, there's a condition. Condition is an object, and we want to find email equal to email, right? So usually, maybe you may want to do one more step. If you want, you can turn it into lowercase, because in our model we save email in lowercase always, right? So you may want to do one more step, just optional. Email. Actually, we have the model. The model will always point to this collection, because we define the model that will like it's gonna be representing the user collections always. So I export user model, and here I imported user model, which means this model will point to that collection always. Okay. So where am I? Okay, here. So user detail are in yes. So the format of the user object, right? As you can see here, the format of the user object here is very similar to the model. Right? You have name, email, password. You have timestamp, name, email, password, timestamp, and the ID. This ID is created by Mongoose. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Right. So you want to find an account, a user with that email, right? And so I'm gonna check if there's no user, or if user is no. So if it cannot find any document, it will return no. It cannot find any, and then you throw an error saying user not found. So if we can find a user, we compare the password, comparing the password. So how do we compare the password? I did it in this morning. So if you don't remember, go back to the documentation of Firebreak. So this is how we compare. Right? Okay, we comparing the raw password or the plain text with the hash. Okay, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to const match equal to await. Firebreak will compare, and here's going to be the password. And this one is going to be the user, this user dot password. Right? This user dot password. And finally, if it's matched, if not matched, if it's not matched, let's make it an adjective. If it's not matched, we're gonna throw error again. So right now, let's not worry about the static code. Just use the error message. Okay. If it's not matched, you can say user the password is not correct, incorrect password. That's it. All right, let's test it. Let's test it. So right now we assume that we are gonna use a bullshit password to log in, and so I'm gonna show you. Let's say these. Okay, so I'm gonna add a request to login. It's gonna be a post request URL to user again to login. Okay, I'm gonna send email for example for 7 gmail.com. Password is gonna be 123. No, we trying to use a wrong password 1234, and I will hit send. All right, sorry, Virip is not defined. We need to import it by equal to by again send. So it's an incorrect password, right? Because our correct password is 123. So if I say 123, you will see the hard-coded response. Okay, right. So if we use the correct password, we actually pass this step. We pass the second step. So the first one is done. Second step also done. Next is the third step. We check if password is matched, then we issue a new token. So this is how we issue a new token. I'm going to say const token equal to accept just that. And now go to the documentation, JSON Web Token, look on how to create a token. That's called sign. Okay, here we go. So we create a token by using this. There's no need to use await here. Right. So I'm going to copy that, paste it here. And the first argument is let's say the payload. It's going to be the payload, and payload is going to be the data that we want to be included in the JWT. The second argument is going to be the secret key that is used to encrypt the token. And then the third argument is going to be the options or the callback function. So let's check the first two arguments first. I'm going to say this one is going to be the user object. So let's do it. User, okay, dot user, and then we have the secret key. I'm gonna use the key inside my, oh, I don't have any. I'm gonna say secret JWT secret equal to super secret. Okay, save it, stop the server, and run again. So because I changed something in my env, so I need to stop my server. Right, go back to here. I want to call this as a process.env. What do you call? Sorry, I don't remember. Oh, JWT secret. Here we go. All right, we have that, and we need to import JWT. I'm gonna say var JWT equal to require. This is very simple. Right? Okay, done. Let me collapse these. Okay. Right. So here we go. We're done creating a new token, and then finally we can respond with the proper user here, and the token is here. Right. I'm gonna test it. Oh gosh. Oops. JSON web token. It's not JWT here. The module name is JSON web token. Okay, done. Now I'm gonna test. I'm gonna log in with the correct password. I'm gonna hit send. So here we go. Wow, that's all. Okay, so here we go. I have the user object, right? The user object as the data here, and I also have a token, which I sign here, I create here. So if you want to see the payload, the data inside that token, you can copy the whole token, go to the website, JWTIO, and paste the token here. Okay, you see the whole mongoose object. It's very long. There's a lot of them in here. A whole mongoose object, right? A bunch of them. You also see the password. We don't want to include the password here. So we need to customize it a little bit. Go to the code. You all don't want the whole object like this. You only want the ID. Will be user ID. That's it. You only want the ID. You don't want everything else. Other stuff. This information is useless. Okay. All right. I'm gonna log in again, and you will see a different token. Much shorter. And let's see this token. Check where am I here. Okay, now you see the ID, right? So that's how we issue a token again. So we have three steps. What is this? Why do we have this? Oh, what? How does it even work? Yeah, I put email there. What is it? Why do you have email here? Okay. Oh, I want to check if email, if not email, or if there's no password, we throw an error. New error. Need to provide email and password. And then we move on to the next step. Provide. Right. It's been really fast. Been going through really fast. We only have like the preparing step. Make sure that we have email and password from the user, and then we use the email to find the exact account. Yeah. If we don't have that account, we can throw an error saying user not found. If we have the user, we can check move on to the next step, checking the password and comparing to the raw password. It's going to be the raw password and the hash password. Okay. And so it's going to return true or false. Okay. If it's false, then we say it's incorrect password. If it's true, move on to step number 3, which is to issue a token. And then finally, response, return. Okay. Oh, right. Do you have any questions? I'm going to copy and paste this. Okay, this is actually a step by step. We will then go back and refactor it after you understand the flow here. Okay. So I will let you take a look at this and try to run the code. Okay. Yeah, sure. This function I put it in Discord already. You can go and copy that. So we can so we finish register, we finish login, we finish issuing the token. We only have one thing left to do. Check the results. Okay. So again, if you understand this logic, we can move on to refactor this function, the whole function. But before that, make sure you understand the logic here. Okay. Okay. Make sure you import these guys. Okay. Jishan, where are you? It's so quiet. Yes. Do you have questions for the steps here that we have to do? So usually when you write code, you need to identify the steps that you have to execute before you write the detailed code. Yeah. So before you implement we design this function, we need to understand, okay, so what's the input that we need? So here's the input. And with that input, what do we have to do? So we have to find the user, and then we have to compare the password, and then we need to issue the token. You know, and then finally we return the data. And then we decide what to do inside each step later. If you're done, click on the I'm good button, or you still need time to think, then click on the let me think. If you have questions, just click yes. Oh, so right now I have the my theme has some color, but before that it's used to be this one. I used to use this theme. It's all white. It's all black. So usually the brown yellow color here saying it's a function. It's a string. Red color means a string, and these are keyword. Not really keyword. This is keyword and const new let. And this is a variable. Variable. It's just a drops. And see your user. I didn't do anything there yet. Cool. I remember why I have that email here. So basically, I want to email to lowercase, right? And wow, you can cause like that. Just next. So I have this line here to make sure that the email string has to be lowercase, because in my database I save it in lowercase string. Okay. You may need to stream it as well, but not too much. Okay, that's fine. Right. Okay, if you get this, the whole logic, I'm gonna refactor it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to refactor the code here. just like how I did it with the registering a new account. Can I see the router port? You mean this? Okay. Oh, don't worry about it yet. Just don't worry about it. Just don't time. Just don't copy this one yet. We will do it next after we will do this next here. Protecting resources. Right. So I think it's time to refactor. Okay. So here I'm gonna do something that's very similar to creating a new user. Right. So here there's a couple of logic here that belongs to that's very closely related to the models. For example, you can find a user using the email, and then you compare the password, and then you issue a token. You can do all of these in the model. You don't have to put them all in the, 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 uh, the controller or in the handler here. Hey, so let's combine 1 and 2 together. Okay. So meaning we log in the user by using email. So I'm not gonna delete anything here yet. I'm gonna create a method static here. So I'm gonna delete this one. We don't need it anymore. So you will learn something else. Static. Do we have S? I think we have S. Static. And then I'm gonna do login with email. Right? Login with email. It's very similar to this one. Equal function. Okay. So this is a static. It's a function. It's just a function. So in order to log in user with email, let's go back here. We need email and password. Right. Login with email and password. You can name it like this. Right. Login with email and password. Okay, and then we need email and password here. Right. The input email and the input password. Right. Inside the function, we will do these things. So we're gonna do. I'm gonna copy the whole thing here. Put it here. So I'm gonna const user equal to await this dot. Hey, what is this here? This here refer to the model, the user model. Why? Don't worry about the error. Why? In this case, refer to the model. In other cases, it refers to the document. There's a big difference between document and model. A document you can call an instance of user model. Right? It's a method. This one as well. Yeah, nice. Because remember on Tuesday last week when I talk about class. Just mention is for the logic is right, but it doesn't explain why this here refer to the model. Okay, let's go here. I'm gonna say remember the class person. Okay, and let's do it here. Class person remember something like this. Constructor name age, then this name equal to name, this dot age equal to age, right? And then finally, when I issue, when I call person, locate person equal to new person, and I will provide the name, and then age will be 32. So I'm going to copy this. Actually, I'm going to cut it and paste it here. Right. Sorry, it's pre-declaring. Right. So now you can see person. So this person is an instance of the class person. It's going to be a it's kind of like a document of this collection, right? And inside that, this here refer to the whole class. So here, let's say I'm gonna have a static, static login with email and password here. The function, this will return hello, just a string. You can construct this here. There's this in here console.log this. Okay. And another method. Okay, some method console.log this. Okay. So there's a big difference between static and normal method. Here's a static, right? And here's a method. Inside the method, the this will refer, because you cannot call the method on the class, you have to create an instance and then you call the method on the instance. And for static, you always actually you call the static on the class itself, not on the instance. So that's why the this here refer to the class, and the this in the instance in the document or the instance refer to the document instance only. So it's kind of, this here is kind of like a child, and the this here is kind of like the whole model, which is the parent. You can call it like that. You can think of it like that. Okay. So this here is from the class, the this of the class, and this here will be the this of whenever you create a new instance. So let's try this. I'm gonna copy the whole thing here. Refresh the whole page. That's it. All right. So person dot some method. Okay. So now inside this, you see the console of this. So this here is the instance, right? But if you want to call login with email and password, you do it like this. Person dot login email and password. So the this here will refer to the whole class, okay, the whole class. And the this here refer to the instance only. So that's the big difference between static and method. Is it a little bit clearer? Yes, I know. Launch. Yes. Yeah. Please ask. What's the error here? Await only used in 18%. Yes. Being head of passion. I seen on line 56 thing. I can't. I don't see the error message, but you missing async here on line 56. Await can be used only in the async function. Yeah. Okay. Ta-da. Done. All right. Nice. Okay. Next. All right. You can. Next is you can also put the logic, the third logic to issue the token into this static as well. That's fine. That's totally fine. But from my experience, you're gonna issue the token again in the future. That means you're gonna reuse it logic in the future, right? So I'm gonna put it separately from this static. Right. I'm gonna I'm gonna create a method. Now we're gonna use method generate token. Okay. Very similar to this is an async function. Oh, async function not from async function. And now here the purpose here we want to return the token. Yeah. We want to return something like this, the token. And we need the input. We need the user.id input, right? We need the user.id input. So how do we get that? How do we get that? I'm going to copy the whole line here. Cost token equal, oh, you don't need async here. Okay, so now you need to import JWT. I'm go here, copy this. Right. So how do we get the user.underscore ID? Please, how do we have this info? So let me refactor this a little bit. So this part, remove it, await user dot login with email and password. Okay, and then we need email, we need password. Oops, I delete that. Okay. Okay, so now I can use this static method to return the user object that we want here, right? And then we need to move on to the third step. I want to create a token for that user, right? So here we go. I'm gonna do something like this: user equal to user dot generate token. Okay. And generate token here is the method here. So in this method, we need this input, the user ID. So how do we get this ID? Can someone answer that? Something called this again. This again. So we have something called this again. This here. This dot name, this dot age, this dot underscore ID. Okay. This dot underscore ID. So it's gonna be this dot underscore ID, right? Then we return the token. I'm gonna save this one. Hopefully there's no error. Yes. This one no error as well. Okay, now let's test it. So I'm gonna use the same password to log in, right? Still work, right? Cool. It's still working, right? So what happened here? What it is? Again, the this here refer to the instance of user model of user model, right? So by trying these statics and method, we eventually understand that this. So right now it's very confusing for the first time you use it. First, try to understand it as you write the code. If you don't know which this refer to, which instant model is referred to, you can control it inside. And remember to use this, it has to be the old way of defining a function. This syntax, you cannot use arrow function to define function and then call this inside. There's no this for this kind of defining a function. Right, so here we have different this here. This refer to the class because it's a static method. It's a static. This here refer to an instance or a document of the user model because we use a method for that because it's a method very similar to this one and this. Okay. Okay, here we return the token and inside our controller or handler, we assign a token variable for that. And then respond. Okay, so now inside our controller, it's become cleaner and more understandable, I would say. So this method, this function name, login with email and password. So I expect to provide the email and password, and then in return I will receive the user object, right? As well as the token here, I mean to generate a token. Right? Okay, let's test again. If I give a wrong password, right? Still incorrect password. Right, so I'm gonna give you the code. Copy the code on Discord. And the see. Right. Any question about this? No. Okay. Yes, of course. What's one question? Okay. What is it? That's a hard question. What type of hash the JavaScript use? You mean what do you mean by algorithm or something? Are you talking about bytecrypt or JSON web token? I'm not so sure though. There should be in the doc here. to hash password. Okay. Uh, a note for time attack. If you are so curious of how it works, I think S8. Let's see. But so there's a note on the route, the south, hash info, testing. There should be a documentation page. All right, here we go. Here. I think we need to stop a little bit. Someone ringing the bells. Okay, let's stop it. And I'm gonna upload the video as well. I'm gonna stop recording. Let's take like 10-minute break, guys. 10-minute break. And you got it? How do you stop? How do you stop? Stop sharing. And